Hi everyone, here is the screencast for today's lesson. Today is September 8th, Tuesday. We started class with 10 minutes of quiet reading, and then we jumped into this activity of making inferences. We talked about how making inferences is what we do when we watch TV shows and movies and we try to guess what's coming next, or we try to solve the crime before the show ends, or we try to figure out how it's going to end before it ends. That's all part of making inferences. And so there's a photo activity that we're going to do that allows us to practice those skills just a little bit. So the New York Times has this activity that they share on their website that's called What's Happening in This Photo. And so what I would like you to do is take a couple of minutes and look closely at the photo, collect details from the photo to kind of figure out what's going on here, okay? I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to look. If you want, you can jot down details on a sheet of paper. Okay, so what kinds of details did you find? After looking closely at the image, think about these three questions. What is going on in the picture? What do you see that makes you say that? And what more can you find? Okay, and so at this point, students said things like, well, they noticed a bunch of people all facing into this open doorway. Some people are reaching into it. It looks like they want to go in. Students said that people are in a variety of different kinds of clothes, like workout clothes, dressier clothes. They're all wearing masks, which gives us an indication of setting, right? We know that time-wise, this happened during the COVID crisis. We also have a bouquet of balloons up here that say Happy Mother's Day. So again, we know when this is happening. Those were some of the details that students noticed. Some other details that students noticed were the signs on the door, the stop signs with the hand in it. Another stop sign up here, another red stop sign over here, a sign on the door that says warning. So this group of people may be trying to get into the building. They're waving, so maybe they're just saying hi to someone in the building. Right, all kinds of details. Other things that we noticed were the palm trees in the background, which also suggests to us that this is probably not Wisconsin because we don't have palm trees here. Okay, and so when we're looking at a text, and I use the term text broadly because that can mean a story, a book, a poem. It can also mean a social media post, an article, a picture, graphics on a t-shirt that someone is wearing, a meme. All of those things are texts. Video games are texts. Music videos are texts. So all kinds of different kinds of texts. And so as we are reading the text, it's important to make sure that we can differentiate between details that are important versus details that are unimportant. So when we look at this picture, details that might be important is the fact that everyone is looking inside this open doorway or leaning toward the open doorway. Another important detail might be that it's Mother's Day. Another important detail might be that they are wearing masks. And, you know, aside from the arm and the hand, no one is crossing that threshold into the building. So those are details that give us some indication of what's happening. Does it matter that there are palm trees in the picture? Probably not. Does it matter that some people are dressed very casually and some people are dressed more business casual? Probably not. But these are all the kinds of details that we can notice as we are reading a text. So then think about what is it about the details that help you find meaning in the image? And we, and some of that connects to this number 2 question on the slide, which is, what is it about you, your experiences and knowledge that help you to find meaning in that image? For example, we're living the COVID epidemic right now, and so we all have experience with face masks. The Mother's Day balloons suggest to us that it is Mother's Day. Perhaps this is family connecting with a mom. And we might know that through our own lived experiences of seeing all the Mother's Day commercials for cards and gifts and having mothers. So, we have some lived experience. Another thing that that jumped out to me is the fact that none of these people at this moment are going into the building. They're leaning toward it, they're waving in it, but they're not going in. And it made me think of my grandmother and her living situation. My grandmother she's 96 and she's in an independent living apartment, but her independent apartment is part of a larger complex that is assisted care housing. And so when COVID happened, the whole building shut down and no one could get in at all, except the people who worked there. And so my grandma was kind of stranded. On March 16th, which is right before the whole world shut down, my grandma had her pacemaker replaced. And she could not go home to her apartment because she could not care for herself. And we didn't want to put her in a nursing home. So after her surgery, Grandma moved home to the house I grew up in, and she lived with my mom and dad for just like 2.5 months. And when the quarantine ended at the end of May, Grandma went home to her apartment. But her apartment building is still in lockdown. So when we go to see Grandma, we have to call her and let her know we're there. And then we have to walk around the building and stand in the yard because she lives on the back side of the building. So we have to go around the building and stand in the yard, and we can talk to her through the sliding glass patio door that she has off of her living room. And that's the only way we can see her. She can leave the building, but until I think it was late June, no one was allowed into the building. So my lived experience helps me to see that this is people perhaps visiting mom in a place where they can't get into her, especially with all these stop signs with a stop, do not enter, warning. So that's the lived experience coming into the details of the photo that help me to figure out what's going on in the picture. So that's questions 1 and 2 here. So when we make inferences, we are looking at the details that are in the text, whatever that text is, and we are also bringing our lived experiences and our knowledge with us into that. And so it becomes this blending of what's in the text and what do I already know that helps us to create meaning in a text. So we took a moment and talked about that, and then we moved on to looking at what the photograph really was about. And the image came from the May 11th, 2020 article, After Months Apart, Mother's Day Visits Through a Doorway. And the story details the scene at a Los Angeles nursing home on Mother's Day. Families got their first chance to see mom since the coronavirus lockdown began, as long as the families stay outside and mom stayed inside. And then the original caption to that photo reads, "The Botez family reacted to seeing Beatrice Botez, 82, through the doorway at Alexandria Care Center in Los Angeles." Okay, so it is family visiting a mom who's been in lockdown in a senior living situation, a nursing home. And the photographer is Isadora Kozovsky. All right, so that was what we did as a whole group in class. And then we talked about the Google Classroom assignment, which is here. The Google Classroom assignment includes this posting from September 8th through the 10th called Eraser Tattoo, as well as an example that I did called September 8th, Hellman's Evidence and Inference Example. So when you click on Eraser Tattoo, you see the steps that you need to follow for this assignment. You're going to read the story Eraser Tattoo, which is posted here. It's a PDF. You are going to use the question, what is the message of the story, as your purpose for reading. So as you're reading, keep in the back of your head, what is the message? What is the message? And then start thinking about what evidence in the text helps me to infer that message. There is an audio available right here. It is not read by Jason Alexander, the author, but for those of you who want to be able to listen to it, make sure that you read along in the PDF as well, because like I said, you're going to need to be collecting evidence, so you want to have that handy. You're going to be writing an objective summary, which is just the facts. So in 5 sentences or less, what is the story about? Ultimately, you are answering the question, what is the message of the story? Number 5, you're going to collect textual evidence from the story that helps you answer that question. And with that textual evidence, you are going to be putting it into the evidence and inference table. So you'll see on this sheet, there's a place for you to type your name, or not your name, I'm sorry, a place for you to type the story title. This is Eraser Tattoo. There's a place here for your objective summary, which is 5 sentences or less, and make sure it's the facts of the story, not your opinions about the story. This is an objective summary. And then in the left-hand column, you are going to collect evidence from the story that helps you answer that question, what is the message? And with each piece of evidence, you are going to be explaining what you think about that evidence. And so here is my example. And we read, in 5th hour, we had a chance to read some of it aloud in class. 1st hour had to read it on their own. So I started typing in some responses to this story title, Eraser Tattoo by Jason Reynolds. The text says on page 4, a normal day for Brooklyn, but for Shay and Dante, not a normal day at all. And that's from page 4. And so that quotation, I stopped and was thinking about it. And the day not being a normal day for the 2 characters suggests that something big is happening in their lives. Right before this quotation, on page 3, the narrator describes a moving truck driving away and a new moving truck arriving. Someone's moving out and it will impact the characters' lives. The next quotation that I grabbed out of this story is a little farther down on page 4, and it says, he'd told, so that's Dante, he'd told Shay that he loved her a long time ago, back when they were 5 years old, and she taught him how to tie his shoes. I thought that was just a really interesting quotation because Dante and Shay have been friends for a very long time. Their lives are connected in a significant way, and one of them, Shay, is moving. So that made me begin to wonder, if she's moving and the moving truck drove away with her stuff, how is this story going to end? How are they going to say goodbye? Their lives have been connected for so long. How do you begin to say goodbye? So that's kind of what was going on in my head, okay? The official assignment is that I want you to make sure you have the story read for Thursday, that you have your objective summary written, and that you have some of the evidence written down. You can do all of it if you want to, but if you get stuck, having just some of it done is okay. Thursday in class, we'll go over it. Just make sure everyone is going in the same direction. And the evidence and inference activity, the Google Doc, is due Friday, September 11th at midnight, 11:59. Okay? If you have any questions, please email me. I will be more than happy to help you out as needed. Okay? And with that, I am going to try to find the stop button to stop recording, and then we'll go from there. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.